Good evening. Welcome to the November meeting of the Iredell-Statesville Schools Board of Education. We're glad to have all of you here tonight, and we will get started with a rather lengthy agenda here in a few moments. We typically begin our meetings with a moment of silence. I'll ask if you will bow with me for the first few moments and meditate in your own way about the business that we have before us, keeping in mind that our purpose here is to help build better lives for the children of our community and the students of this school system. So if you will bow with me and ask for guidance that we do the right thing by our children in the work that we do and decisions we make. So let's bow, please. Thank you. Let's stand. We have the ROTC cadets from the West Iredell High School with us tonight, or Honor Guard, Color Guard. I'll get it right here in a minute. But they're going to come forth and bring the flags, and we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, colors. Right, face. Forward, march. Thank you. Let me see. Before we begin our consent agenda tonight, we'd like to make a couple of introductions, I think may be in order. We have newly elected school board members that will be sworn in next month at our first meeting, and our attorney will talk about that process a little bit later on in the meeting. But I'd like to introduce Bill Howell, our newly elected board member for District 2. Congratulations, Bill. District 4 re-elected is Chuck Gallion. District 6 re-elected is Charles Kelly. I know that we have one of the newly elected commissioners here with us tonight, Mr. Gene Haupt. Gene's in the back. Congratulations. Do we have any other newly elected officials that I didn't see when I came in? Well, again, thank you all for your upcoming service, and we look forward to the work that will be done and hopefully greater things for our community. We'll begin now with the consent agenda. We do not have any administrative items tonight, but under personnel, we have items B, C, D, E, and F that are listed on the board in front of you. The acceptance of resignations, retirements, rehires, terminations, and leaves of absence, the approval of classified personnel, approval of licensed personnel, approval of administrative appointments, and the approval of reinstated personnel. Dr. Lassane.
Dr. Cash.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the agenda the same as we were given in the packet?
There was a new agenda on it.
Typos on the first one.
Yeah, I didn't see any big changes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Dr. Lassane.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, you have had the opportunity to review the November personnel report. I would add that when you came to your seats, there were some items that were sent to you via Mr. Johnson on Friday. You also have an addendum to that report, which includes some administrative transfers. So upon review of both of those items, I would entertain any questions.
Dr. Lassane, I did not see the new contract for our food service director, which needs to be voted on. Can that just be included into, we reviewed it last month, or last
Yes.
week?
That is part of the personnel report. I did not bring you new copies of that. So we can, it's, the name's probably not on here, but you can actually add that if you would like.
Yes, just to make it part of this month's personnel report.
Technically, and I don't know, this would be an attorney question, her contract was already approved, and technically any changes to a contract don't necessarily go through that. It's just that the board has to be informed, is my understanding, but the changes on that, those have to be voted on?
Well, if it was approved, that's what Mr. Page and I were talking about before the meeting. We couldn't remember if we talked about it as a contract matter in executive session, but never took action when we came out. I don't know. Kelly
It was
might know
discussed
that.
as a contract, but it was just an addendum to an existing contract. So,
Actually, it was not a contract. What I saw had been changed.
that's what I mean, an addendum, a change to an existing contract that had been voted.
The legal just add that contract onto this.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Make that formal motion.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Well, no, it'll be without it.
I mean, I think she can just tell us.
Clarify it.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments about the personnel report? If not, we also have minutes from the October 3rd Committee of the Whole meeting and October 10th the Board of Education meeting. If we have no additions or corrections to those minutes, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the minutes as well from October.
I make that motion that we do that.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Max. All right. No other discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
Dr. Cash, I have one introduction, if this would be an appropriate time.
Yes, sir.
Board members, on the board report that you just approved, we have a new principal, Jonathan DeCastro. He's in the back there. So, Jonathan, if you'll stand up. He has his wife with him tonight, Brittany, and there are three absolutely gorgeous children, Jillian Ann, Paige, and Charlotte. And so, girls, welcome tonight. Thank you for coming to your dad's big night here at the school board meeting. Let me tell you just a little bit about Jonathan. Jonathan attended the State University of New York, and he received his degree in elementary education grades 1 through 6 with a specialization in mathematics. He also has a degree from UNC Charlotte, Master of Arts in Curriculum and Supervision, and he has his administrative degree and license from the University of Scranton. Jonathan has had a very stellar career in education. He began his teaching career at Sterling Elementary School in Charlotte, where he was a teacher and the lead math teacher for 4th grade. During his tenure at the school, he consistently met high growth in reading and in math. 100% of his students were proficient in reading and math. He was the Teacher of the Year there in 2009, 2010, and his first year was voted Outstanding First Year Teacher, 2005, 2006. His next assignment was at Lake Wiley Elementary School in Charlotte. He was an academic facilitator there. The school did very well during his tenure there as well, meeting high growth and in reading and in math. He served in numerous leadership roles at that school, including coach and model lessons for teachers, conducting walkthroughs and providing feedback for teachers, reading intervention, worked closely with the principal to ensure the success of the school improvement plan, providing monitoring and coaching, and created a basketball team to help students improve their behavior. Jonathan also served in Iredell-Statesville at Third Creek Elementary School, which is the school that he'll be taking the principalship of, where he was a reading specialist and RTI coordinator, assistance team coordinator, and a 504 coordinator. Jonathan has been serving since 2013 as the assistant principal of Lakeshore Elementary School in Mooresville. While there, that school has met expected growth in 2016, exceeded expected growth in 2015, and met expected growth in 2014. He was a district finalist for the Assistant Principal of the Year and has done a lot of work with the STEM initiative that has been launched there at that school, including problem-based learning, a partnership that has been developed with Wake Forest Medical School. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jonathan McCastro. We are very excited about him taking on the leadership there at Third Creek, and we wish you the very best, Jonathan. Thank you and congratulations.
Congratulations and welcome to your new role with the team. We'll move on now into the recognition portion of our meeting tonight. First, we have item A, the Community Schools Award regarding the Iredell Museums. Ms. Weiberg.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Well, we have a crowd here tonight because they can explain this much better than I. But for the past 19 months, the Iredell Museums have been working with faculty and volunteers from East Iredell Elementary School to create a bilingual storybook on the museum's mummy, Margaret. The project was funded through an Iredell Arts Council grassroots grant, and Melinda Herzog, our museum director, is here tonight, and she's going to explain it just a little more fully.
And thank you for the opportunity to meet with you this evening and talk about our success. The one thing that's really amazing is that this was truly a community project. There are 13 people that worked on this book project for over 19 months, meeting after school, sometimes longer into the night than we all thought it was going to happen. But it's a wonderful creation. As Susie told you, this is part of the North Carolina Arts Council, which is part of a division of the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And this is a new merging of departments in the state to help with the heritage and the preservation of our natural culture, which fits very well with our mission, since we have both the Gregory Creek area with a natural reserve and we have the museum downtown. They received a grant initiative of $3,600 to pay for the writing, illustration, and printing of 2,500 books that will be distributed to the children here in Iredell County. We've been working with the ESL program for many years at the museum, and East Elementary has been a long-time partner with us. We're very proud of the exhibits that we've done with children at the museum, where they actually created the exhibitions that they illustrated and wrote labels for. We've been part of art projects. We brought a dolly painting in, and the children were learning how to interpret that, and they wrote commentary and competed in art competitions related with it. And so Margaret, the Mummy Story That Was Never Told, is a book that was written over this 19 months. I wish to thank Superintendent Brady Johnson for helping us with this project. His support was incredibly important because it was necessary as also getting the grant funding, so he's one of the reasons for the success of that grant. We've also would like to thank Amy Ryan, the principal of East Elementary, who made the building possible for us to meet in and supported the efforts of her faculty. towards this project, and also Teresa Waugh for seeing the importance of adding this book both to Shepherd, which was not part of the original grant, and we were fortunate enough that we were able to get the cost of the printing down that we could distribute 2,000 books to the two schools, which we're very proud of. And that's largely because of the labor of volunteers. And this is going to be a little bit of a long list, but they really deserve the recognition for the labor that they put into this project. First and foremost, Isabel Plyler. Now, Isabel's on our board, but she's also an ESL teacher at East Elementary, and she really spearheaded this project. She did amazing efforts in selecting people to work and volunteer in this project, and coordinated the meetings and did the follow-up notes, as every good teacher does, working on a committee. But her enthusiasm for it goes far beyond a normal volunteer. She picked an amazing team, which included Rachel Adams, who's the author, and I believe she's here this evening. I'm going to ask them all to stand at the end. Becky Cleaves, who was an illustrator. And we also had Michelle Paz, because we wanted more illustrations, and so she stepped in and did a map and hieroglyphics for the text. Sandra Campbell, who's also on the board of the Iredell Museums, did amazing research on the mummy, and she was always the go-to person for them to go back to ask questions, and she pitched in, especially in the early part, to explain the mummy. Sherry Allison, who is the photographer here in downtown Statesville, took pictures of the mummy that are on the back of the book, and you'll see that shortly. Rachel Alex, who plowed through PageMaker to be able to develop the book layout. She had never worked with the software before and championed it beautifully to be able to produce the book that you'll see. Vanessa Morales was the Spanish translator, Diane Cash, the English proofreader, and then we had several people helping us with the proofreading in Spanish. Yamil Ardilla, Patricia Mejia, Herbert Venegas, Luisa Villarreal, and it was the Spanish proofreaders, and you can tell by my accent that I don't speak Spanish. So I was grateful for every single one of them. And then at our East Elementary, we also had student readers who created the title, and that's Rossi Hamberin II and Carolyn Cleaves. So this volunteer group did an amazing job, and the state was very pleased with the product, and we're very excited to be part of it. And so I would like to have everyone rise as part of it, and also the Board of Trustees for the museum as well that are here tonight, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to have this exhibition, and we wouldn't have this wonderful book. When you get the book, you're going to see that there's also an article. This last month, we were featured in Our State magazine, and we're very proud of that. It gave a nice showcase to the state, and I've given you a copy of that article along with the book. And in case you can't remember all the names I rattled off, they're all in the letter, and I thank you very much for your support in this project.
Would you all like to come up for a picture? We'd like to have a scrapbook we keep if you would like. All of you come to the front and we'll get a quick picture.
Do we need to get autographs?
November 21st at the museum, 6 o'clock, we have signing.
sure we get that.
Was it November 21st? Where?
The museum. At the museum?
This one down here?
Yes, sir.
Again, thank you all for your service on this project. We appreciate it. Next, we have another Community Schools Award. Ms. Maxine Middlesworth, Susie Wilbur.
And I'm sorry that Maxine and Chester are not here. I'll be giving them their awards tomorrow, but it's so important, and I wanted everyone to know this. So Maxine Middlesworth sat in one of your very seats for 16 years, from her swearing in on December 2nd, 1974, until she completed her service to the board on November 30th, 1990. Sometime after her last term, Mrs. Middlesworth decided to take the monies she'd been reimbursed for expenses during her terms in office, as well as any stipend she received, and she created an endowment fund for Iredell-Statesville schools. Her vision was that the spendable income from this fund would be used for initiation of creative, innovative, and out-of-the-box teaching. She began the fund with approximately $20,000. For these many years, this money has been invested by the Foundation for the Carolinas, where it rests today. As of September 30th, the principal amount is just over $91,000. What we get to do is spend the interest income, and depending on the market, that can be anywhere from zero, and that's happened, to a high of about $6,000 per year. For the past 10 years, we've been able to make what we call mini grants to staff within our school buildings. Many classroom initiatives have been funded through this endowment, and most recently, with the blessings of Chester and Maxine Middlesworth, the piano lab at Scotts Elementary School was funded by this year's income, and it's named the Middlesworth Piano Lab. So Maxine's dream has come true, her endowment fund continues to grow, and our staff continues to benefit from her generosity. They've just been wonderfully supportive people. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that, and I will take that to Chester and Maxine's home tomorrow. Okay? Thank you.
Our next recognition is the Fit Friendly School Award. Have Ms. Ginger Edmiston from the American Heart Association here. You all have the podium.
Good evening. I'm not Ginger.
Sorry about that.
No, and that's right. My name is Keith Cummins, and I'm a vice president with the American Heart Association. And Ginger Edmiston is the local director. And I wanted to be here tonight because it's an honorable thing here. But I want to thank the board members as well as Mr. Johnson and all the school personnel present here for allowing us to be here. And our purpose is to give out that Fit Friendly Award, which I'll explain in just a moment, as well as recognize the top 3 Jump Rope for Heart and Hoops for Heart schools in Iredell-Statesville. And these schools have put a face on heart disease and then taken action to actually curb it. And with education and action, these schools encourage their students to be heart healthy and help save lives and improve the lives of others. It's very important because heart disease is still the number 1 cause of death in adults in the United States. And it's also the number 1 cause of death in women. Not everyone's always aware of that, but it is. But less well known is that it's the number 2 cause of death in children under the age of 15. And the number 1 cause is just all accidents combined. And so it is one issue that we can address. And when your community does, thank you so much, because when we do, we're really helping out the whole community. So the current generation is the first generation actually forecasted to live shorter period of time than their parents. And so let's work together let's continue to work together to stop that and turn that around. So thank you. But tonight, I'm thrilled to be here to recognize 4 of your schools. The American Heart Association recognizes schools that go above and beyond with their focus on staff wellness with our Fit Friendly program. And I would like to recognize Brawley Middle School for being nationally recognized as a fit-friendly work site by the American Heart Association. To be recognized as a fit-friendly work site, schools have to apply and meet 6 physical activity requirements, 2 nutrition requirements, and create a culture of wellness for their staff. Congratulations to Mary Shalvey on this great accomplishment. If you could come down, we've actually got something to give to you as well. Congratulations. So in the Iredell-Statesville district, 18 of your elementary and middle schools participate in the Jump Rope for Heart or Hoops for Heart programs. And these programs help to teach students about healthy lifestyles, including 5 for Life, which is 5 basic messages we try and get across to the students. Drink water over sugary beverages, eat fruits and vegetables, get 60 minutes of physical activity a day, and avoid salty foods, and always say no to tobacco. They also help to teach students jump rope or basketball skills while allowing them to participate in community service programs that fund life-saving research as well. So tonight I would like to recognize the top 3 jump rope hoop schools for heart in your district for the last year. Third place is Cottle Creek Elementary, led by physical education teacher Kenton Nixon. Congratulations and thank you. Second place is Troutman Elementary, led by Danette Clendenin and Bart Mays. Please come down. Again, congratulations and thank you. And the top school in Iredell-Statesville School District is Woodland Heights Elementary School, led by Monica Woodruff and Krista Curley. We're so excited to present our top school traveling banner to Woodland Heights Elementary as well. So please come down and get 2 things. Thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you for your support of the American Heart Association. You allow us to do our life-saving. Thank you.
Thank you all, and congratulations. Heard a comment in the back from a little child that said he didn't want to leave. That's really refreshing to hear. I think in 16 and a half years on this board, that's the first time I've heard somebody say they really didn't want to leave. So that makes me feel better.
That's true.
We have one other recognition on our list tonight, item D, Mr. Brady Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Cash. Well, this is bittersweet, but we are recognizing Dr. Cash tonight as he serves his last board meeting as our chair, and this concludes a career of 16 and a half years of service to the children of this community. What a stellar accomplishment. It's hard to believe that this time has gotten here, and we're all saddened to see Dr. Cash depart from this role and as a member of this team. But I did think it would be very appropriate tonight to reflect on some of the accomplishments that the school system has garnered under Dr. Cash's leadership. When Dr. Cash came on the board, our graduation rate was 78%. The highest our graduation rate has been during Dr. Cash's tenure was 89.3%. The dropout rate was over 10% when Dr. Cash came on the board. The lowest dropout rate under his leadership has been 1.9%. Academic ranking, in North Carolina, Iredell-Statesville schools did accomplish a goal that was set many, many years ago to be in the top 10 school districts in North Carolina for our academic rank. Dr. Cash has been instrumental in embracing the school option movement that has swept North Carolina. During his time on the board, he and the other members of the board have supported creation of programs like the Career Academy and Technical School there in Troutman, the Dual Immersion Program at East Iredell Elementary School. 2 early colleges, CCTL and Crossroads, were put in place during his tenure, and the creation of the first international baccalaureate program in Iredell County, the middle years program and the diploma program. We also, just this year, was able to deploy our first primary year IB program at Cottle Creek. The A-plus school at Scott's, the Arts Integrated School, is open this year, and that is the first school of its kind in Iredell County. And the list goes on and on. As you tour the school system and you walk in the front door of many, many of our schools, you'll see plaques recognizing board members that have been instrumental in securing funding and working with county commissioners and building schools and adding on to our schools. I think this is a partial list. Rob, you may have to jump in here and help me. But when I started jotting down those plaques and the buildings that have been renovated and the schools that have been built under your leadership, it's pretty darn impressive. Celeste Tinkle Elementary School was rebuilt during your term. Central Elementary School, Cool Springs Elementary School, East Iredell Elementary School, Harmony Elementary School, N.B. Mills Elementary School, Scotts Elementary, Sharon, Shepherd, Troutman Elementary, and Union Grove. We've had 2 middle schools, Brawley Middle School and North Iredell Middle School, that had extensive additions and remodeling. 4 high schools, Statesville High School, West Iredell High School, South Iredell High School, and North Iredell High School. We've got 2 projects now that are in the beginning stages, North Iredell and South Iredell High School as well. We've had 4 new schools constructed during your tenure on the board, Dr. Cash, including Cloverleaf, Cottle Creek, Third Creek, and Woodland Heights. And Rob, again, I don't know if I missed anything or not. I probably.
I'm still counting, you're right on track.
I think I'm probably pretty close there. Dr. Cash is a local gentleman. He grew up in the Monticello community and attended Monticello Elementary School. He went on to finish and graduate from South Iredell High School. He has a very compelling life story to tell, too. He was the son of mill workers and accomplished quite a bit as a student. Went on to Pfeiffer University, I believe, where you received your degree in chemistry, and then down to Chapel Hill for a medical degree. He told me one time that as a board member, he hoped to make sure that he was providing opportunities, excuse me, for the kids in our community so that they could leave Iredell County and go on and be whatever they wanted to be. And I think you've done that, Dr. Cash. So tonight we do say thank you for your years of service. We wish you well in the years ahead, and I'm sorry for getting emotional. But this gentleman means a lot to me. As we plan to give you some type of recognition tonight, we didn't think that one of these plaques that you sign your own name to was quite efficient, so we started thinking outside the box a little bit. I called John Fraley, Representative Fraley, and said, John, could you help us out? We'd like to see if Governor McCrory would recognize Dr. Cash and his service to our community. And so he did that. And so tonight, Dr. Cash, we'd like to present what is known in North Carolina as the Order of the Longleaf Pine. Oh, wow. This is the highest civilian recognition that our state gives. And let me just read this to you. This is from Governor Pat McCrory, and it says, special confidence is placed in the integrity and the learning and the zeal of Dr. David W. Cash. I do hereby present and confer this Order of the Longleaf Pine with the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary, privileged to enjoy fully and all of the rights granted to members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose the following North Carolina toast and select company anywhere in the free world. Here is to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun does shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home, the old North State, and it's signed by Governor Pat McCrory, November the 14th. So, Mr. Kelly, you're our chairman. I think at this point I'm going to turn this over to you, and we would love for all of the board members to come down front and get one last picture with Dr. Cash, and then we'd like to recognize his family and do the same thing. So.
Am I supposed to say something? You know, I have heard of this order in all types of places, here, there, here, to a lot of really exalted people. So for this to come to Dr. Cash at this time, I really think it's an outstanding honor that he has at this time for all that he has done for this school board and for this community. So for everything that he has done, this is just a small part in recognition. We thank him very much, and this is a tremendous, tremendous thing that you have done.
Well, I will make some comments when we sit back down, but I know people would like to get the pictures made so we can get ahead with the meeting, but I'm totally humbled by this and surprised.
Get this board on.
I'll get up here.
I'll come for another one.
Okay.
Doc Cash, just stay right there. Your family is here tonight. His wife, Diane, his son, his daughter, his sister, his mom is with us, and two adorable grandchildren. So you guys come on up too, please.
This is my daughter, Lauren, son, Brendan, wife, Diane, I might be one of them. Okay, this is an emotional evening for me as well tonight. In fact, Martin Page came up to me at the beginning of the meeting and asked if I was more nervous tonight on my last night here as a board member versus the first night I served. And I told him I really believe I am. I was nervous that night, but this is a special night, and I want to make sure that I don't mess up. I don't know if this was known by the rest of you or not, or the rest of my family or not, but it totally surprises me, and I'm absolutely humbled by it. And I realize, and I want this board to realize, that this is not an honor for me, it's an honor for the board. Because no one member of this board carries the weight and can take the credit for the work that this board does. I mean, this is a team, and we've worked as a team, and I hope the board will continue to work as a team long after I'm gone. I've been fortunate to serve over the 16 years with many fine people that have been really dedicated to the students of this school district, and I think I echo the staff. I mean, all the way from the top level down. We all are functioning as a team, and that's what has made this school system great and allowed it to be recognized for the achievements that it's done. So I'm honored by this. I'm humbled by this, but I give the credit to all of us, because if we did not have the support of each other, we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we've done. And I certainly give credit to my family, as well as the extended family, for putting up with me and the long nights at some of the meetings we've had till I think it was after midnight one night when I got home, but we've had several late meetings. But it just shows the dedication, I think, to the students that's been served here. I would like to take Chairman's privilege for a moment and make some comments. I promise it won't be as long as it might look when I pull these papers out. But I made some notes. I don't know if we'll hear any other little kids say I don't want to leave in a minute. But I think this is fitting in that we've got our small group here of the board members and our cozier group of the administrative leaders and family tonight, which is what is left at this time of most of our meetings. But I read a part of a poem, I don't know, a few months ago, and when I read that, I thought of us as a board here. So these are comments primarily to my fellow board members about a philosophical look at kind of what we do, and it shows how things never change in the world about the cycle of life, the cycle of work. And the poem that this comes from was written by a Persian author named Omar Khayyam, Khayyam, who lived in the 1000s to 1100 mid-century range. And this poem was interpreted and translated into English by Edward Fitzgerald, not to be confused with F. Scott Fitzgerald, but was an author who spent most of his career working on these 2,000 verses. I mean, it's got a Persian name that I can't pronounce, but it's 2,000, and it's and these verses have double meanings as part of the story behind this poem, and we don't really know which side that the author came from. But the poem reads, "There was a door to which I found no key. There was a veil past which I could not see. Some little talk a while of me and thee. There seemed, and then no more of thee and me." So I read that one morning while I was on the treadmill, and I thought, this is us. Life is short. We are sometimes slow as board members, as community members, at all, but we're slow to understand as the information we receive is often incomplete and it's sometimes slow to be revealed. And sometimes our own understanding is incomplete and we are limited by the boundaries of our own minds that form based on our own biases, our own limited knowledge and our own lack of perspective sometimes. So even when we're sure of the facts, though, and we know the direction that needs to be taken, sometimes we're still held suspect by other people's lack of knowledge, lack of perspective, or limits of their minds. And at those times, we, quote, may seem, we just may seem to be acting, we may seem to know what we're doing to them. But as board members and leaders of this district, we still have to move forward and stay the course. There will be comments made. And I remember my partner, when I first came into practice, Harry Walker, sometimes would make this comment, oftentimes when we would get reports from other doctors about a patient. If it was a really long report, he would say, much written and very little read, much said and never heard, much explained and never understood. And then even the Apostle Paul said one time, speaking of himself, I look in a mirror and see dimly. So when we look at this verse, we realize that a lot of times we do come before doors that are locked, and we have no key, and we have to search and try to either find the key, find another way to get in through the door, or sometimes knock down the door. And we don't always agree as to how to do that, but we still have to get through the door. We have to look into the intricacies of the decisions that we have to make. Sometimes it is veiled. Sometimes we're not able to see clearly. I thought of the newspapers a lot when, or the community talk sometimes about some talk a while of me and thee. But then that's short. And there's a time that there's no more of thee and me. So this is the time that the me part goes out of this picture, and it will be left to thee, and the newcomers that come on. And so the work will go on, the cycle will continue. And sometimes we feel that our work is not really worthy. We feel like the work is not worth it. And I thought about the words of the preacher or the teacher, depending on the interpretation used in the book of Ecclesiastes. I don't mean to get preachery here, and I promise I'm going to save part of this for my Sunday school class later on. But if you've read that book in the Bible, it has the theme that all we do or say sometimes seems to be vanity, seems to be worthlessness, seems to be useless. And so what is our duty or our responsibility or others' expectations of us? But it's to trust God and act anyway. And when I wrote that down as I was just putting my thoughts together the other morning, when I said act anyway, it reminded me, as I oftentimes do, get on tangents. And I thought of the poem, Anyway. Have you heard of that one? That's going to be familiar when I read it. And I want to take the time to read this because I found something else about this poem that I think is really pertinent to education, and especially to young people's education. It's been attributed to Mother Teresa, or you sometimes see it as author unknown. But it's a short poem again, but I'll read it to you. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough, but give the best you've got anyway. I'm going to stop with that part of the poem. That was found hanging on a wall in one of Mother Teresa's orphanages. And that's why it has become commonly thought that she was the author. But when someone researched that poem, they found that this was excerpted from a book written by a guy named Kent Keith when he was a freshman at Harvard University. He had come through a high school in Hawaii that did not have any student leadership guidance, so to speak, in a formal way. And this was written in 1968. He wrote a book called The Paradoxical Commandments. He was 19 years old, again a sophomore at Harvard University, sent this back to his high school classmates as a way to try to be good leaders and instruct and encourage students to be good leaders in a positive way, even though, remember, again, this is the 1960s, and remember the 1960s, a time of revolution, a time of young people's discontent with the establishment. Much of what we've seen this last couple of weeks and we're in the midst of. So he was trying to help direct those students to try to lead and give them materials where they could honor themselves and honor the positions they were in and be an asset to the students there. I just thought this was neat that this poem has been extracted from those paradoxical commandments. He went on and wrote other books. Kent Keith has become an attorney, a state government official. He's been a high-tech park developer, president of a private university, a graduate school teacher, community organizer, and wound up as a YMCA executive. And he's also been head of some of the Greenleaf Centers for Servant Leadership, first in the United States and then in Asia. So I will stop my comments for now, but I thought these were pertinent as a parting word to my fellow board members and an appreciation for the work that we do, and I hope the community can see that these decisions are not ever easy. They're sometimes really complicated, and I hope people will be patient with us as a board, and I hope the board members will be patient with each other as we all try to bring our individual knowledge, individual pieces of past information that we try to put together and search and look through the locked doors and see through the veils that sometimes cloud the pictures that are before us, and not worry so much about the talk that happens about us from others, realizing that sooner than not we go away and our time is over. But I certainly have appreciated the time that I've spent on this board, and again, the relationships that's been formed, and I will take that with me for the rest of my life. And it's been a 16 years I wouldn't trade for anything. And again, thank you for the recognition tonight. That's very humbling. I would a lot rather give the recognition to someone else. But I appreciate you all. Thank you again. Well, I guess now we'll get down to the work of the evening. Hopefully this will be a relatively short part, even though we've got several items to bring forth on the agenda. On the non-consent agenda, number A, we have the merit pay plan. Dr. Lassane, would you like to make comments? Again, these were all discussed last week at the CAL meeting, so we may not need to go into a lot of detail again.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, we're not going to do the PowerPoint presentation, but when you came in, you found a draft copy of the final document that we are planning to send to the General Assembly regarding the merit-based bonus plan. So just for the record, very quickly, based on the work of the committee, we are bringing forth this recommendation of this plan for your approval. If you'll remember, it has to formally be approved by the Board of Education, and this plan has to be submitted by December 1st, 2016 to DPI to then go on to the General Assembly. You can see the position categories that were outlined. And pretty much those are our non-educators as well as assistant principals and principals. The group that is included in legislation, but we are not including in our plan, is central office administration, director level and above. As far as the terms of service, at least 6 months employment in the 2015-16 school year, which means they had to be employed by January 15, 2016. And to honor commitment to Iredell-Statesville schools, they have to remain employed until at least February 1st, 2017 to qualify. You can see the excluded positions there. We have built in the special provisions for leaves of absence, separations, transfers, just to put all of those details in there. If you'll remember, the two criteria are evaluations and performance, and it stipulates what must be met around those. We did extend the performance component until February 1st, 2017 to align the same date of employment. You know, we wouldn't want, originally that date was October. We wouldn't want someone to do something that would not be merit-based after October, and so we did extend that to align those two deadlines. You can see the relevant amounts of the bonuses for full-time as well as part-time employees. Gross $360 for full-time and $180 for part-time. And these bonuses would be paid on March the 31st, 2017. Are there any questions regarding the proposed plan?
I would like to make a comment. It's amazing, Dr. Lassane, your committee and you have done a remarkable job in a very short period of time to come up with such a detailed and good-looking plan. I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Board members, I did get a call today from a concerned citizen who questioned this merit-based bonus plan. Said they'd read something in the media recently about this. And I did stress to the citizen who called me that eligibility for this plan was set in place by the General Assembly. And so teachers are not included in this because the General Assembly didn't want to include them in this. That was not a local decision. I think it's also important to point out, as I did to the gentleman who called me today, to remind everybody that our central office staff, although they are eligible for this, did not want to be included in this. It's our perspective that we want this money to go to the folks that have been overlooked for many, many years in North Carolina. And so I join you, Mr. Page, in giving accolades to Dr. Lassane and the committee that put this plan together. I think it is very fair, it's very equitable, and long overdue. So we're excited about this. And this will be paid to our employees in March the 31st, 2017.
And I would like to add just a couple of points. The whole team just really deserves great accolades, and particularly Melissa White and I worked very closely together on getting our list, and we got it down, and we had around 20-some people. So for two people to do work just to make sure that everything was tight, and by the time we pared that down very quickly based on our criteria. And so I have to extend that also. And I would like to say, keep in mind for that caller, Mr. Johnson, that in the presentation, you have a slide that points out all of the types of merit pay that are assigned for teachers. So it's not open to all teachers, but all of those IB, CTE, AP bonuses, all of those things are, from the General Assembly's perspective, merit pay. And so it is going to fragment because some people aren't even eligible for that based on what they teach.
Other comments about the merit pay plan?
And grant-paid employees are not eligible as well, is that correct?
They are.
They are?
They would be included if they're in an eligible position that could get the grant, that could get the bonus pay. Okay. They would be eligible, as well as locally paid, and even our enterprise funds.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept by staff's recommendation of the Iredell-Statesville Schools Merit-Based Bonus Plan. Second.
You have a motion and a second to approve this merit pay plan as proposed. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the second reading of the school improvement plans. Dr. Taylor.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, at the October board meeting, we shared with you the link to review school improvement plans. We also posted those for public feedback. To this date, we have received no comments. We're certainly glad to entertain any questions that you may have. Dr. Carricker, Ms. Cooper work very closely with principals, and school improvement plans are one of the things that when principals come in for mid-year and end of year, they do report on progress for those school improvement plans.
Comments about the school improvement plan? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve these plans as read.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the school improvement plans as read.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Anna? Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the Golden Leaf Foundation grant. Dr. Taylor.
Yes. Last week at the Committee of the Whole meeting, we did share with you a very exciting opportunity to partner with the county on the opportunity to apply for a Golden Leaf Foundation grant. We did submit our application last week, and this application was endorsed by the county commissioners at their earlier meeting. The grant, if awarded, would be for $460,000, and we would utilize that to help support the initial startup costs for the early college, the Agriculture and Science Early College on the campus at North High School. You do have a copy of the application there, but based on board policy, this would require your approval since it's over the $50,000 amount.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Golden Leaf grant as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this grant as presented to us. Any further comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Well, thank you, Doctor. Next, we have the Ropes Challenge Course Feasibility Study. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Cash, members of the board. I'm going to ask Rob to step up to the microphone, too. He was the one that brought this to my attention several weeks ago, but Iredell County has approached us and asked about the possibility of partnering with the possibility of putting a ropes course on the campus of South Iredell High School. And so this is a great example of collaboration between the two government entities, and as we explained to you last week, it makes a lot of sense for us as well. Rob serves on the committee that looks at a lot of the athletic facilities and whatnot, so Rob, we've got your maps included in here. If you could just give us a real brief explanation for the public and for the cameras tonight.
Okay, first I'd like to recognize Michelle Hepler is the Iredell County Parks and Recreation Director, and Mike Holtz is the one that actually runs the ropes course project for the Iredell County Recreation Department. As many of you know, the main road that goes around that property is being routed for a future interchange there at Cornelius Road, and the new road, Bluefield, is coming right through the ropes course, so it's going to just dissect it in half. And we've started looking at other places, as I serve on the Iredell Recreation Advisory Board, and we started looking at other places that it possibly could be. And South Iredell seemed to be a very good fit once we bought that 154 acres. We now have 195 total acres in that tract of land there on Old Mountain Road. And in combining Old Mountain Road over to East Mambo, and there's a section of that property back in the back that is really rough. The terrain is very ideal for the ropes course area and can be utilized. It's not a good building site, a lot of cost in there for school construction, but for what this program could be. And then in talking with Principal Tim Ivey over there, he also would like to look at putting in a very challenging cross-country course. And I know the ROTC, Marine Corps ROTC there, is looking to expand some of their training areas along that property. So it became just a good portion because that tract of land is not very far north. It's probably 10 miles north of where it is now, but the clientele that it serves is a lot of Iredell-Statesville School students.
Is there going to be a way to get to this property besides helicopter?
Yes, sir. That's part of a master plan that I'm going to sit down with Mr. Ivey and his staff and also Iredell County Recreation Department, and we're going to look at how to utilize all of that land and make it work together.
It just looks kind of landlocked at this point.
But as soon as we get a master plan together, we'll identify that.
It's not that far.
Okay. There's a plan, that's fine. It just looks like it's so isolated.
As we talked about at the community hall meeting, this is a great idea. And I hope this is just the start of a great working relationship with the Iredell-Statesville schools. And well, not start, because we've always had it, but an expansion of the working relationship we have with the county rec department. I think it's just a great idea to use that property. Thank you for putting that together.
When did we build the first ropes course, Michelle? I don't remember. Was it 98 or 90?
The very first one was on lease property in Allison's was in 1985.
And we moved down here to Bluefield in 98? 97. Okay. I was thinking Kim was still alive. Okay. Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve this study?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ropes challenge course feasibility study. Any further discussion?
Just a clarification on will this be a committee formed, or we're going to leave, I mean, it's fine just leaving this to administration to do, or Mr. Chairman, did you want to, do we have a plan on how we're going to do this study?
No, I think Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smith have kind of put the letters together and kind of coordinated that, and I'm going to look to Mr. Johnson to kind of help set that up.
We are looking for volunteers and people of interest that would like to serve on this feasibility study.
We're just going to leave it up to you and Mr. Smith and put that together. That's fine. That's fine.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yeah, that motion carries. Thank you,
sir.
Okay, we have several proposed policies for first readings. Again, we went over these in more detail last week, so I think we'll probably breeze through these quickly unless someone has questions. But we'll start, we've got them grouped by the administrator that handles these issues. So first we have Melissa Wyke on some of the financial part.
Okay. The first one is policy 2130. It's board member compensation and expenses. It's not a new policy, but it does add probably 3.5 pages of new material. It basically covers board member responsibilities for requesting reimbursements when they travel for workshops. None of this is new. It's practices that we already have. Just one or two new things that will have to be considered. A board member who wants to attend a workshop out of state must have approval of the board. And then also board members who attend conferences would be required to report out on the conference to fellow board members per policy. All right, the rest of these, most of them we can breeze through pretty quickly. 6410 updates policy for the Iran Divestment Act of 2015, which prohibits contracts with persons determined to be engaging in investment activities in Iran. Never seen this, but it's now state law, so we have a number of policies to update for that. 6420 is the same. 6430 also updates the policy for the Iran Divestment Act. It also adds one more statutory exemption for getting bids. That is for certain published materials.
Can't we just...
Are we okay?
I just have a question.
Yeah, interrupted me. Stop, sure.
We just did this.
Do you want me to not do this for public? I just can say nothing.
Are we doing this again for the public, or are we saying we're going to go through all these again, and then we're going to go through them again at the second?
We will not do them at the CAL meeting. It's my understanding that we'll do this first reading. They'll be not seen again at the CAL meeting. They'll come back for final approval at the next board meeting. I honestly don't do a lot of policies. If I'm not supposed to reiterate what was done at the CAL, that's fine.
No. I'm not complaining. I'm just asking to. I'm not sure there's any need to go through all these again that we just went through.
Completely fine.
Since we are in front of the camera tonight and the TV audience, as well as our audience here that may not be familiar with these, that we can do them quickly as you're doing. But I think we probably do need, for the public benefit, to be completely transparent with our work that we go through just as you're doing.
Okay.
So
charge.
I'm going fast. Okay. 6430. I have to read to remind myself.
You going to speed this up?
6430.
Mr. Kelly took more time asking for an explanation than if she just let Melissa go on.
Yeah, I'd probably be done by now. Okay, 6430, also Iran divestment, like I said, I think I already talked about that one, okay. 6440, local purchasing, Iran divestment again. 6442, Iran divestment. 6450, same. 6560 is a new policy, talks about disposal of surplus property. Again, this is a new policy to us, but it's a practice that we already have in place. Property worth less than $30,000, the board can designate 3 people to determine that the property is surplus and can be sold via means that are available to them. Property worth $30,000 or more has to be approved by the board to be surplus. Policy 7650 is a new policy, employee travel and other expense reimbursements. Again, this just puts in policy internal practices that we already have in place for employee travel reimbursement requests. The only new thing that would come out of this policy is that out-of-state travel would have to be approved by the superintendent. Policy 8210, grants and funding for special projects. That, again, is the Iran Divestment Act and some small other legal references. 8305 is a new policy, Federal Grant Administration. This is required by the U.S. Department of Education, and it has to do a lot with some new regulations that have put in place by the uniform guidance that covers federal grants. It just requires a lot more things to be in writing and documented. We've documented everything that we need to. This policy serves to accomplish a lot of the requirements from that. Policy 9010 is simply changing legal references. That is all.
Do you want to have questions for Melissa on her portion? Again, we discussed these for television audience and the audience here. We've already discussed these as a board. These were brought up primarily to be presented to the public. And we'll have these sit for another month, and we'll come back next month and vote on a second reading.
Now, I just want to take a second to say, Dr. Cash, I'm going to miss you. Appreciate all that you've done for the Board of Education And just going to miss seeing your face just a couple of times a month.
Well, I'm going to miss you too. Thank you. Next, we've got a section that Brady Johnson is.
Yes, sir. Dr. Cash, members of the board, these policies are existing policies in our policy manual today. So the School Boards Association has made a recommendation that you consider tweaking these policies. And these are both communication related. And I think what the School Boards Association is trying to do here is just be a little more transparent and to make sure that the communication that is taking place in the district is consistent. The first one is Policy 2010, Board and Superintendent Relations. If you approve this amendment, it will enhance the consistency of communication to the public. It adds a requirement for notice to the Board of Education when the superintendent makes certain communications relative to legislation, school board policies, or political issues. The second policy is similar. Policy 2220, Official School Spokesman. If you approve of this amendment, it will establish the board's expectation to all of your employees who are asked to communicate on legislation, policy, or political issues in their official capacity. And again, it's important to stress here, in order to ensure consistency of the message to the public. And again, both of these are recommendations from the School Boards Association.
Comments or questions about those two policies?
Mr. Johnson, how are you going to do? How is a school employee going to do that? I mean, there's so many different political views on different subjects. Are you going to have the board consensus before these employees speak?
Well, I think the important thing in that second policy is when they're speaking in their official capacity as an employee of the district. So if me or the associate superintendents, assistant superintendents, if Dr. Miller's out talking about a construction project, we need to make sure that we are conveying the communication that we get from the board and not be going out on a tangent by ourselves. Now, I don't see this as a policy that interferes with our 2,700 employees to go out and express their own personal political
Correct.
views
Yeah.
or anything like that. These are your district leaders that are going out in the community speaking on behalf of the school system at large.
I know in the last several years there have been issues that have been pretty volatile or divisive. So I just want to make sure we're on the same team, conveying the same subject.
Yeah. And I think the legal staff at the School Boards Association that wrote that is trying to do exactly what you're asking them to do, and that is a consistent message on behalf of the Board of Education.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we've got a group that Dr. Miller is going to present.
I have only two.
All right.
I'll make them very quick. Both of these policies are in place. These are just small adjustments to the policy to bring it in line with state statute. Policy 9110, use and selection of architects, engineers, surveyors, and construction managers at risk. It brings it in line with state law, which allows for design build to be exempt from that particular 50,000 threshold. Policy 9400 has verbiage which includes that we do offer property, real property that we may have for sale or for lease to charter schools. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next, we've got a group, Dr. Taylor.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, we discussed all of these policies last week. Most of the changes are required changes recommended by the School Board Association. Policy 1310, 4002, parental involvement, changes some of the language in the policy regarding reporting that is done on both the district and at the school level for academic student performance, teacher qualifications, and per pupil expenditure. And then also over on page 6, there's addition that parental permission must be required for students' participation in mental health assessments or mental health services. Policy 1320 changes the title on this from to include parent and family engagement, and then changes the language throughout the policy to reflect that. Also, this does include some change in language, and then website notification for parents, and the same information that was included in the other policy on the dissemination of information regarding student performance data. Policy 1400 changes and updates the policy titles to reflect those changes in those other two policies. Policy 3460, graduation requirements, amends the language to reflect the current guidelines that our current students who would be in high school would be following. It deletes the information for the students who were entered high school in 2009-10. Policy 4003 is a new policy to adopt, and this policy just states the expectations that we translate information that's shared with our families in as many languages as possible other than English, and we certainly always do that in Spanish. That one's very easily for us. We do have some that translate for Hmong translation, and those are our primary families that we have in this community. We certainly try to make sure that we meet the needs for those other families whenever possible.
Comments or questions about those policies? Thank you. Next, we have another small group, Dr. Lassane.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, these are the last 7 of these policies. So you can see policy 4040-7310 has to do with staff and student relations. It particularly focuses on changing part of that policy to explicitly state that there should be no job assistance for anyone who has engaged in sexual misconduct with a minor student. That is a required piece, as well as the other pieces you can see there. Policy 7130 reflects some major required changes to the licensure policy, as well as some that are recommended by the North Carolina School Boards Association. Particularly for this policy, I would draw attention to those sections dealing with emergency permits. We talked significantly about that about a month ago in committee of the whole meeting, as well as it loosens the constraints to allow some CTE instructors that may be working at a community college or something like that. It loosens some of those restraints for them. It also has sections of these revisions that focused on highly qualified and that new definition with the recertification, with us shifting from No Child Left Behind to ESSA, that reflects that now we have to focus on the state definition of highly qualified versus that prior definition that was so tightly connected to No Child Left Behind. The next policy is policy 7425, which has to do with school administrator contracts. This is a recommended change for the legal references, just to make that more explicitly clear. Policy 7430 has to do with substitute teachers. These are required changes that are connected to Title I that deal with parental notifications if a substitute teacher is in a classroom for 4 or more consecutive weeks. Policy 7720 has to do with employee political activities, And it basically is connected to some of the other policies that you've heard talked about today. It has to do with stipulating who the designee or who the spokesperson is for the school district, as well as to clarify employees' responsibilities around that. Policy 7810 has to do with the evaluation of licensed employees. You can see that this is where we have the provision that teachers with less than 3 years of experience must be evaluated annually in accordance with state law. Policy 7810 has to do with plans for growth and improvement of licensed employees. You will find a number of recommended changes as well as some required changes in the setup of this whole policy. It specifically adds lots of information regarding the professional growth plans for assistant principals and principals. So that's a huge section of the changes to this policy. And the final policy is policy 7920, which has to do with personnel files. These are required changes by the law. And this, again, as we mentioned last week, has to do with when, if there is an occasion, when it is important for the board to be able to vote to release some information to maintain the integrity of the board. So that is the change that is written within that policy. Are there any questions regarding any of the recommendations? Thank you.
I have one final policy, Mr. Richard Armstrong, number 7241.
Dr. Cash, members of the school board, and Mr. Johnson, I would like to ask if we could table policy 7241 until December, because there's still some research, some things that conflict with what we do, if that would be allowable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our policy list for the night. We now come time for the public comment portion of the meeting. Again, for those members of the audience, we allow, as a board, members of the public to speak to us with a time limit of 3 minutes. I'll ask Kelly to kind of watch the time for us, just out of respect for everyone who comes to speak so that we can be consistent. And ask that you introduce yourself by name and the topic that you wish to discuss, and then make comments to us as you see fit. We generally do not respond back to those comments here, but we'll take them into consideration later on at other meetings. We had one person to sign tonight, Mr. Gene Haupt. That's good.
Good evening. I'm here tonight twofold. I'm here as a parent of 5 in your school system. I'm here on behalf of Chairman James Mallory, Marvin Norman as our Vice Chairman, all of the Commissioner-elects, and the other commissioners. They're sorry they couldn't be here. They had other meetings tonight. We wanted to come and congratulate Mr. Kelly, Mr. Gallion, and Mr. Howe on your elections, and we wanted to congratulate Dr. Cash on your service to Iredell County. We all strive as elected officials to leave a board or entity better than when we arrived, and I think you've done that. I think that is without a doubt you have done that. I, along with Marvin Norman, will be co-chairing our education committee once we're sworn in. I look forward to working with all of you guys very closely. You guys are our secret weapon for Iredell County. Our schools are our secret weapon in the state of North Carolina for economic development. You guys are our biggest attractor to businesses and industry coming to Iredell County, creating jobs, disposable income for our citizens. So hopefully we can, on a collaborative effort on behalf of the citizens, work together, agree where we can. We're never going to agree 100%, but all of you guys are friends and neighbors, and we're going to agree with common dialogue. And I want to congratulate Dr. Cash again, congratulate his family, and thank you for allowing him to serve us for 16 and a half years. Dr. Cash did not take a dime from Iredell County citizens in that 16 and a half years. He will not tell you that because he's a humble man and an honorable man. Through attacks in your 16 and a half years, you've taken the high road and you've done your job. And you've allowed other people to disagree with you, which is your job and all of our jobs as elected officials. But tonight, on behalf of all the county commissioners that are currently sitting and the three of us that are commissioner-elects and our county citizens, I want to congratulate those of you, look forward to working with you in the future, and congratulate you and thank you for your service to Iredell County. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up. Are there any other members of the audience that would like to make a comment to the board? If not, our attorney asked that make a comment about the process of the induction of the new members and re-elected members at our next meeting. Costi, I'll turn it to you for a second.
Thank you. First I wanted to tell Ms. White, if you miss Dr. Cash that badly, it looks to me like you can ask Mr. Johnson for permission under Policy 7650F to take him to lunch, and maybe the system will reimburse you for that.
Does that need a motion, Mr.? Does that need a motion?
Chief Resident Superior Court Judge Joseph Crosswhite will be here both on the 5th of December and the 12th. Actually, only one swearing in is required, but Mr. Howell, for your benefit, it's pretty, the sanctions are pretty extreme for a board member who begins to act before he's sworn in. So we'll have Judge Crosswhite come on the 5th. And Kelly, if you would make sure there's a Bible at ADR. There's a Bible right here that we can use on the 12th. But I also encourage Mr. Gallion and Mr. Kelly and Mr. Howell, if you have, a lot of times folks have a special family Bible and a special family member that they would like to be present. I know that Judge Crosswhite would encourage that. We will have a separate oath that you can sign and that Judge Crosswhite can sign for you as well. So we'll do that on both occasions. And hopefully, Mr. Johnson, at the first, whoever's going to be setting the agenda, I told him to be here at 6 o'clock on each of those dates, so that'll be great. One other thing, when the legislature changed the school board elections in Iredell County to partisan, there were some policies that needed to be changed, and it appears that all of them except one got changed. And so what we're left with is an unusual situation. North Carolina General Statute 115C-41 requires boards of education to hold an organizational meeting within 60 days of an election. So, of course, we will have our organizational meeting at the 12th. I guess on the 5th we'll have to have it because we'll want to elect a new chairman at that time. However, our current policy 2200 did not change the time of the organizational meeting from July. So we have a policy that says the organizational meeting will be in July. So I'm assuming that even though there were no elections, that the folks that are serving in their current offices, namely Dr. Cash and Mr. Kelly, have terms that expire on June 30th of next year. So I called the School Board Attorneys Association, and it's pretty simple if we want to do this. You can waive the first reading of a change to Policy 2200, and you could vote on Policy 2200 to simply change the time of the organizational meeting from the meeting in July to the meeting in December. And I would encourage us to do that in December. And then since the chairman won't be here, it authorizes it says that the superintendent or his designee will just conduct the meeting for the purpose of electing a chair. Mr. Kelly, even though he's in the role of vice chair, he, just as every other board member, can be a candidate for chair. Anybody who would like to be nominated can accept the nomination, and then we'll vote that way. But Mr. Johnson has asked me to lead the meeting for that sole purpose of getting a chair elected, and we'll do that. I feel like we ought to do that as soon as we swear in Mr. Howell and Mr. Kelly and Mr. Gallion on the 5th, and then that person can take the gavel and lead the meeting then. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and if y'all are okay with that, we can present that minor change to 2,200, and then I think we'll be in good shape all the way around. Are there questions about that? It's a little bit much. Yeah, we probably don't have notice of it, but I don't see why we couldn't do it at the the Cal meeting in December.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Well, we have an opportunity for board member comments at this point. Any other board member comments tonight?
You know, I never give a chance to say anything. I don't know if my microphone's working. It wasn't last. Y'all keep it cut off. I really think that's something that our lawyer does for safety's sake, cut my microphone off. I just want to make a few comments to Dr. Cash. I want to thank you for your leadership for the past 2 years. I cannot express with words my appreciation for what you've given in time and effort and leadership to our school system. 16 and a half years on the board, and you still got some hair left. That just fascinates me because I'm 2 years of mine's about gone. 14 and a half as chairman. Oh my goodness. That is so far beyond my comprehension of one's civic duty, it's just even hard to comprehend what you've done for so many children in Iredell County. And then I want to thank you personally. You've done a lot for me in the past 2 years. You've taught me a lot. You've made me look at things in many different ways that probably I was not accustomed to. And most important, you've made me a better board member. And even more important than that, I really mean this, Dr. Cash, you've made me a better person. And I really have enjoyed being under your leadership. Now, everybody knows we butted heads, and I think our heads are about as equally hard. But, you know, but I've always remembered you always, when we leave, you shake my hand and smile at me. And you know, I think that's just respect I have for you. I have so much. You know, I told you the very first night after some things and all that I was proud to call you my chairman. I meant it that night. And in the last 2 years, my respect and my appreciation for you as a person and as a leader has grown so much, it's exponentially exploded in my respect for you. Tonight, Mr. Chairman, I call you a mentor. Most importantly, I call you a friend. So one last time, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I really appreciate it, and it goes both ways. Any other comments?
I just wanted to also say that I did not, in the 6 years that I have been on this board, I've seen glimmers of it, but I really appreciate that sense of humor that you've shown to this board, the civility, the tactfulness. You may leave us, but your legend lives on.
Thank you.
Just thank you, Dr. Cash. I've known you a long time.
Right.
Thank you.
Goes back a long way.
Yeah, he's a Viking and I'm a Raider, so that's okay. But I still like you.
Okay, well, let's move on then to the superintendent comments. So thank you all for all the comments.
Got a couple slides we'd like to share with you, just some of the events that have transpired over the last few days in the school system. That's a great-looking group at North Iredell High School, where on October the 11th we had the groundbreaking for the Visual and Performing Arts Center, which is one of 5 projects that was approved in 2014 by the citizens of our community. We had an opportunity that day to take some of the dignitaries on a tour of the school that had not been inside North Iredell High School. And it was rather eye-opening for them to get to see the conditions that the kids are in currently at the school, and just resonated even more why this investment in North Iredell High School was so badly needed. Next slide, please. That's the group at South Iredell, same day, same project, the Visual and Performing Arts Center there at South Iredell High School. So glad to see those band members there. They are currently being housed in a mega unit. And if you have not been in a mega unit during band practice, I challenge you to go try that. I did not realize this, but the band teacher wears little hearing deflectors in her ears during band practice. Could you go back one slide there? I want you to call your attention to the banner that was... Okay. That's all right. This banner that Jada and Susie crafted for us that particular day echoes something that Commissioner-elect Haupt said just a minute ago. And we just simply said that day, thank you for this investment in our futures. And we really mean that. You are investing in these kids for the next 50 years. At the bottom of that, you can't read those words, but it does say economic development, jobs, and quality of life. And I'll tell you something, communities that do invest in their public schools enjoy all three of those. I recently got to hear the gentleman that is taking over the leadership of the economic development for South Iredell and the Statesville community, Russ Rogerson. And the day that he spoke, he echoed that same theme, and he talked about recruiting businesses to your community, and he talked about the importance of infrastructure. You got to have good roads. You need to have an airport that's at least regional so these guys can fly in and out. You've got to have all the utilities that they're looking for. You've got to have low taxes that they're looking for. You've got to have economic incentives for them to come to a community. But then he also pointed out that the deal breaker is all businesses want a qualified workforce. And all other things being level, all other things being the same, if they don't find that steady stream of highly qualified employees, then they're not coming to your community. And that's where the Iredell-Statesville Schools and Mitchell Community College come into play. So we really do mean what we say there, that this is truly about investing in the future of our community at large and the quality of life that we as citizens enjoy here. All right, our next slide. October the 17th through the 21st was School Safety Week in North Carolina. And I don't know why those guys are not smiling, but I tell you what, it scares me a little bit.
Most wanted list.
Yeah.
October 30th. Wait a minute. Halloween.
Halloween. All jokes aside, we do enjoy a great relationship with all three of the law enforcement communities that serve the children in our community. And I do want to give a pat on the back to Matthew Sells, who is the Chief of Police in Troutman, Joe Barone, the Chief of Police here in the city of Statesville, and our Sheriff Darren Campbell. We could not do what we do without these guys, and they go above and beyond the call of duty. They take it personal. Two of those three gentlemen have children in our school system, and so when you talk about school safety, we're talking about their children, and we do enjoy a great working relationship with them. So thank them for their support.
Darren's a graduate of West Iredell High School.
Yes, very proud of Darren. The Ignite Summit was held. This is our fourth annual Ignite Summit. You can see some of the kids that attended there at Statesville High School on October the 20th. And this year, the founder of the Ignite Summit, who is a senior there at Statesville High School, decided to expand this. And you can see her in this next slide here, Jennifer McLean. She will be leaving us this year to go on to college, but we held our first elementary version of the Ignite Summit. The purpose of the Ignite Summit is to raise awareness about bullying. And I tell you folks, there's not a bully-free school in America. It is an epidemic, and with the advent of the social media, it's taken on a whole new twist. We can't do enough to continue to raise awareness about this and to train our staff members and set an expectation that our schools are bully-free. There's a distinguished-looking group, and it's being led by Wayne Harwell, who is a retired principal here in our community. And we did have a little get-together there at Statesville High School on October 27th. That's where we had all of our middle schools come in, and each of our principals brought a female and a male athlete, along with the athletic directors, and made it official that softball and baseball is coming to our school system after a very, very long time. And thank goodness we are not the last school system in North Carolina. We're next to last, but we're not the last system to implement this in our community. I have received nothing but positive comments from the community about this. A lot of folks are excited about this. And I don't think anybody's more excited than the high school coaches, because they see this as a feeder pattern now for their teams. And so there's been great collaboration and work on this thus far, and now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Dr. Miller has been out and surveyed all of our schools to find out exactly what facility needs there are there. So there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement in the community about this effort, and we're looking forward to it. Next year we'll be looking for some folks to throw out the opening pitch, so start practicing your fastball. Next slide. October the 27th, history was made here in Iredell County. Scotts Elementary School is the first A-plus arts integrated school in Iredell County, and I think they are the second in western North Carolina. But they had a big crowd that night, and the kids just really got into this. And as Susie Whiteberg pointed out to you earlier, thanks to the generosity of the Middlesworth family, they do have a piano lab there. And it is really something to go up there and see these kids taking piano lessons during their elective time and whatnot. But we expect great things to come out of our first A-plus school in Iredell County. That young lady with her back to the camera is here tonight. That's Miss Terry Hutchins, who is speaking to a group of folks at North Iredell Middle School. Again, on October 27th, we had our first community forum to talk about the early college at North Iredell High School. And I was pleased to say that we had standing room only. That picture really does not do that room justice. To the left of that frame and to the right of that frame are more people that were in attendance, and they came from all over the county. We had a very positive meeting, lots of good questions. Teresa Hayes, the principal at North Iredell, was there that night. And so we want to commend again the group that pulled together and wrote this application this summer. It has been received now by the Department of Public Instruction. They've given us good feedback to this stage, and so we're looking for our application to be approved. And we are going to begin in January, as we start rolling out our choice options across the school system, take a leap of faith and step out there and put this school down as one of the choice options with the other two early colleges that we have in place. So very, very excited about bringing this opportunity to the kids in the northern end of the county. Next slide. There we have one of the foods classes at the Career Academy. I'm not sure exactly which class that is, but we continue to call upon these kids and their instructor, Linda Marshall, as ambassadors to go out in the community and serve in an ambassador's role. They prepared a meal recently for the Retired Teacher Association, who came out and toured Cool Springs Elementary School. And again, we always get great feedback from the folks that these kids serve. They do an excellent job, and we're very proud of them. Look at that little group. That is Central Elementary School, where they have adopted a slogan, "Every child, every day." And you can look in the back of the photograph. You'll see Principal Diana Jones there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the principal's office. And what Miss Jones has done is she took her conference table and slid her desk around sideways and butted it up to the conference table. And she has a group of kids that she tutors every single day. And that is why Central Elementary School has the test scores that they have, because every child in that school is getting individual attention even to the point of the principal shutting down her office and turning it into a tutorial lab. When you walk into her office now, you grab one of those chairs. It doesn't look like a principal's office. It's really been turned into a learning lab. And I just can't say enough. That is really an example of going beyond the call. And I love their slogan. They are living what they say every day, focusing on every student every day. East Iredell Elementary School invited me to a cookout recently. And I rarely miss a meal, as you know, so I showed up. And I'll tell you what, this sparked my interest quite a bit because the photograph doesn't do this justice, but they are on the front lawn out at the Hallmark Inn. And some of you know where that's located. It is a motel in the eastern part of the city. And what we found out that night is that we have about 50 of our children living in that motel. They are considered homeless children. I also found out that we have nearly 400 homeless children that attend our schools every single day. And what I began learning that night is when you live in a motel room, how do you cook your meals? How do you do your laundry? How do you find a quiet place to sit down and do your homework? And so I commend Amy Ryan. I can't find her in the photograph, but she's there somewhere, right in the middle. And her staff, who every opportunity reach out to this community of homeless students to make them feel welcoming at East Iredell Elementary School, and even going beyond the call of making sure that they're providing food and clothing, taking people to the laundromat so that they can do their laundry. This is what it means, folks, when you talk about a school embracing the community that they serve. And I really commend Ms. Ryan and her staff for that. Last week was Veterans Day, and West Iredell High School exceeded all expectations. Their Veterans Day celebration gets bigger and bigger every single year. They had 300 veterans in attendance that day, and they had a group called Cooking for Christ come out and prepare meals for about 450 people, and it turned into just a gigantic celebration and paid great honor to the veterans that live in the western part of our county, and we certainly commend them for that. And then one day, next slide, I was riding by Statesville High School and saw kind of a silent tribute to our veterans. And that got a lot of attention, too. I saw lots of people stopping to do what I did, and that was to take a picture of that. But we can't say enough about our veterans, and we've got a couple on our Board of Education, Mr. Gay and Mr. Howell, and so we certainly commend them for their service and their sacrifice, and say that to all of the veterans in our community. Now, December the 8th is right around the corner, and that is the morning that we have set aside for our legislative breakfast. Hope that all of you can be there. We have gotten RSVPs from 3 of our 4 members of the General Assembly delegation, and they will plan to be there as well. As I talk to the staff about what that agenda looks like, we do want to make sure that we are speaking on behalf of the Board of Education. But what we propose as being some of our big issues that we would like to talk to our members of the General Assembly about is the class size legislation and the impact that that's going to have on particularly our elementary schools. We would also like that morning to talk about the A through F report card and a fairer, more balanced way of reporting out on how schools are doing and honoring schools for the growth that they make, because that's being overlooked right now. We also want to talk to them about calendar flexibility. That's something that has been on our radar for more than a decade, and we feel like we've got a good chance this year with the recent survey that the General Assembly ordered on calendar flexibility to make an impact there. We also want to talk to them about adequate funding. And as the expectations continue to be ratcheted up for public education, we need to make sure that we're supplying the resources that our teachers and administrators need, and also to talk about adequate pay. We certainly commend the General Assembly for the bonuses that they gave this year, but that's a one-time bonus. And we've got some employees in our school system that work diligently every single day, knocking themselves out, but they live below the poverty level. And so we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of advocating for our employees as well. We also want to talk about accountability and making sure that everybody is on the page that we embrace the school choice movement. We know that it's here to stay. I think that Iredell-Statesville Schools is a competitive player in the school choice option movement, but we also want to make sure that it's fair and that it's open and that there is dialogue in the community, and so that taxpayers do know how their money is being spent in some of the private schools and charter schools that are funded with taxpayer dollars. And then we have talked about the possibility, and I know Martin and I spoke about this, Mr. Page and I spoke about this last week, of having a dialogue about partisan school board elections, and is that beneficial to schools or not? And so that will certainly be something for the board to decide. But if there's any agenda items that you'd like for us to add, we'll be glad to, or take any feedback that you give us on that. But we are very, very excited about this, and it looks like the attendance is going to be very good that day. The last thing that I would like to do is to invite everyone. Tomorrow night, we are holding a community forum, a parent awareness night, and the topic is going to be drug and alcohol use among our youth. This will be held at Williamson Chapel on the Brawley School Road area near Brawley School, Middle School. We have two speakers lined up, and both of these are parents that have lost a child to drug and alcohol abuse. So it's going to be a very powerful presentation, and the message to the parents is to get involved with your children and don't let your child become a statistic to drug or alcohol abuse. So the meeting will actually start with a dinner from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, and the presentations will begin immediately following in the sanctuary at 6 o'clock, and that will be tomorrow night. And that's all we have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess you can see the announcements of upcoming dates there. We'll just mention those verbally for the television audience. Have November 23rd is an annual leave day. November 24th and 25th will be the holidays. December 5th will be the next Committee of the Whole meeting at the ADR Education Center at 6 p.m. December 7th will be an early release Professional Development Day. The December 8th, the legislative breakfast, as has already been mentioned. And then December 12th will be our next Board of Education meeting here at the Iredell County Government Center at 6 p.m. We have no closed session agenda tonight. So at this point, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, thank you.
We did that just for you, Dr. Cash. We did that just for you.